How we doing, folks? Your host, Donnie Scholzhofer, back here for episode number 7 of the Sickle Slap Shot. It's a phenomenal feeling to be back here. It's been a while. We had a bit of a layoff. It was a bit of a work stoppage, maybe a lockout in the Sickle Slap Shot offices. We're not going to go into that. But it has been a long layoff, so that means we will have to catch you up on what you've missed throughout the Sickle season since the last one, since episode 6. So, we take a look at what you've missed. We first want to take a look at just where the league stands right now. Let's take a look at the standings. As you can see, we are 1 week away from the playoffs starting, and that means we have had teams clinch. We have 3 teams have clinched. We can see Bend It Like Backstrom, far and away the top team in the league. They're winning the President's Trophy in the Sickle Slap Shot. GM of the year, no doubt. Bend It Like Backstrom, first place, just running away with the league. Second place, Mix and Nash having a fantastic season, doing very, very well. Chance of Flurries has also clinched. The league champions of last season had a little bit of a struggle there in the middle of the season. They actually lost 3 in a row and dropped into 7th out of a playoff position, but they've since had a resurgence. They've won 8 of their last 10 matchups, and that's seen them leapfrog into 3rd place and clinch a playoff spot. In contrast to the teams like Bend It Like Backstrom, Mix and Nash, Bend It Like Backstrom's lost 3 times all season. Mix and Nash just 5 times all season. They've been incredibly consistent. Never lost twice in a row of either of those teams. 4th place, we can see, unbelievably, from what you've seen last year, Boats and Hosts is putting on an absolute show here in the second half of the season. They started out 3-7, really struggled, turned things around. They've actually won 6 of their last 7 matchups, so they are in hot form and into 4th place and just a single point or 2 away from clinching for the playoffs. So they're definitely going to be in as we look forward to the playoffs. 5th through 7th, you can see here, it's a huge battle right now. In 5th place does stand Wayne Train. He's coming off the back of a horrible defeat, 9-1, 2 Chance of Flurries, and it's just been the back end of the season from hell for Wayne Train. They were the feel-good story of the season, really, for the first half of the year, but they've since lost 5 of their last 6 matchups and sit on the verge of potentially even falling out of the playoffs. In 6th, we have Teach Me How to Dougie, just a point behind Wayne Train, but they are on the up and up. They've been real up and down this season. Win 1, lose 2, win 3, lose 2, just kind of all over the place. Even after a rough week last week against Boats and Hosts, we think they've made enough moves that they could sneak in the playoffs. In 7th, though, Malkin's Mouthful, really a team that you are completely surprised they're down here. They finished in a really good position last year, 3rd place in the league, but the strategy of making no trades, only free agent signings, hasn't let them, really take off this season. They sit just on the outside looking in a playoff position. And really, it's been a tale of a couple of seasons here. They lost 7 in a row at one point in the season before finally winning 3 of their last 4 coming into this week and have a massive matchup that could potentially get them into the playoffs. And then the final 3 slots with McDavid versus Goliath, a good position for an expansion team. 8th, not a great season, not going to make the playoffs, but respectable nonetheless, especially the way they struggled at the beginning of the year. We then see Geyser Geese in 9th. Definitely, a season to forget for them, but they've made a ton of deals. They've gotten really young as a team, and that hopefully puts them in a good position going into next season. Same with Booze and with Bilesma. For an expansion team, it's just been a horrible season. Absolute nightmare for Schultz. It all started with David Pasternak. Don't bash me because he scored twice on the Penguins. I don't want to hear it. But, really just some interesting deals, but needless to say, Booze and with Bilesma looking to improve for next season and hoping to get that first pick that eluded them this year, no doubt about it. Speaking of moves, we talked about, let's take a look at Trade Center. There's been some unbelievable deals in the time since we were last with you. First thing we can note, there have been 29 trades made this season. Last year, there was a total of 5 deals. So that is an unbelievable 600% nearly increase from last season. We've seen 99 players swap teams versus 19 from last year. So the activity we've noticed this year from all the teams all around, we can attribute that to some of the new GMs being very active and helping move this along. But definitely way more active this season from some of the teams, and it's just been fantastic to see, all the league interaction. We've had some big deals in that time as well. We've seen the likes of Steven Stamkos and Claude Giroux swap sides. We've seen a massive 6 deals on deadline day, more than we saw the entirety of last season, and we've seen some big players move in directions. Eric Stahl went to Geyser Geese for Seth Jones to teach me how to Dougie, so some defensive moves all around. We've also got Joe Thornton, Brad Marchand, Brian Little swapping to Teach Me How to Dougie from Boats and Hoses, who received Johansson from Nashville, Tyler Johnson, Sean Monahan. So some youth swapping its way for veteran leadership. Teach Me How to Dougie really looking to make that late playoff push and be a player as we move forward. We've seen Jeff Carter go to Bennett like Backstrom. Of course, we talked about that massive trade from Giroux to Stamkos. We've also got Mixon Nashett bringing in Mrazek, Suter, Sharp for Aaron Ekblad and Nugent Hopkins, who's on IR. So unbelievable to shop out some of those younger boys to bring in some really solid fantasy contenders for the season. We've also seen the potential Rookie of the Year, Artemi Panarin, go to Geyser Geese, and he swapped out Anze Kopitar and Brad Marchand, which led to Marchand going to Teach Me How to Dougie. So the trades have just been thick, fast, and furious, and it's been unbelievable to watch this season. But in spite of all the player moves, in spite of how the standings have shaken out this season, we decided to do a little bit of digging. We went to the advanced stats community and said, can you get beneath the numbers here and let us know, how have these teams played? Are they living up to their potential, or are they fallen by the wayside? And the way we did this is we decided we're going to assign 1 through 10 points. Yahoo equally weights the teams, the categories, 1 to 10. They're weighted the same, all 10 categories. If you win one, it's worth 1 win regardless. So we took that same strategy and we ranked how teams have done in each category, not wins and losses, but rather their overall production. On a 1 through 10 scale, we ranked each category evenly. We added up the totals to see respectively where each team should be finishing based on how they're doing overall in these categories. And the results were startling. We take a look offensively, we can see we have goals, assists, plus minus, power play points, shots on goal, and hits. Easily to see, Bend It Like Backstrom has put on a phenomenal performance. They are far and away the best offensive team in the league. But the team you'll be surprised to see it's second, Malkin's Mouthful, actually ranked second offensively in the league, which is unbelievable considering they are 7th in the league standings and on the outside looking in for a playoff position. We then see some normal contenders. Chance of Flurries in 3rd, Boats and Hostess 4th, much like they are in the season. Mixon Nashett in 5th, not great offensively, but not terrible. Teach Me How to Dougie in 6th. Wayne Train in 7th, Geyser Geese in 8th, Boozing with Bosma in 9th, and McDavid versus Goliath in 10th. Obviously hurt a little bit having McDavid himself out for quite a while with an injury. So offensively, that's a big thing to note, and the reason you can see how it worked out is if we take a look at the goaltenders, Malkin's Mouthful was rock bottom goaltending stats-wise. Really, only one team, Boozing with Bosman, was even close to them in terms of goaltending statistics and how poor they were, and that explains, the big discrepancy with where they are in the standings versus some of their underlying statistics. Goaltending-wise, Chance of Flurries, the best goaltending team in the league. And you'd be surprised at that, but they look at their lineup. They got Fleury, Jake Allen, Elliott for Allen when he was injured, as well as John Gibson, who've had fantastic seasons. Mixon Nashett, easily our best goaltenders from last season, have really rued the loss of Carey Price to injury, but they still sit second in the goaltending rankings for the season, so otherwise a fantastic season for them. 3rd in the goaltenders, and you wouldn't think about him as a goaltending team with all the offensive firepower, but Bend It Like Backstrom, 3rd in the goalie rankings. Boats and Hostess in 4th yet again. Teach Me How to Dougie in 5th. Wayne Train 6th. McDavid versus Goliath 7th in their goaltenders. Not terrible. Geyser Geese in 8th. Boozing with Bosma 9th. And of course, Malkin's Mouthful bringing up the rear. And all that leads us to our beneath the numbers comparison. We can see we have the actual standings as they stand right now on the left-hand side. And we have our Corsi standings on the right-hand side. Similar to, one of the main advanced stats that people look at in the analytical community. And also a shout out to our lovely friend in the league, Geyser Geese, and a notable fan of hockey, a New York Rangers fan, lovely lady, whose last name happens to be Corsi. So shout out to her and shout out to the Goose. But if we take a look at our Corsi standings, we can see top of the league, no doubt about it, Bend It Like Backstrom. We can see why they're the top team overall. But second in the league, you'd actually be surprised to see Chance of Flurries, last year's champion, they're coming on strong and doing very, very well. Actually sits second in our Corsi standings. Third, Mix and Nashit, who have, seen that they must have had some favorable matchups at some point in the season to be so clear for second place, yet third in the Corsi standings that are, relatively tight. Boats and Hosts is in fourth, much like they are. And this is where it gets interesting. If we look at our playoffs, we have 6 teams make the playoffs. Wayne Train and Teach Me How Dougie are in. Malkin's Mouthful on the outside looking in. But we look at our Corsi standings. Wayne Train, certainly the beneficiary of that fantastic early season start, as by the Corsi standings, they would not even be in a playoff spot. They are in 7th in the Corsi standings. Malkin's Mouthful would sneak in 6th, Teach Me How Dougie in 5th. So interesting turn of events there. We can also see Geyser Geese maybe a poor fortune in terms of scheduling, as they're 22 points behind McDavid versus Goliath in the actual standings, but they sit well ahead of them in the Corsi standings. McDavid versus Goliath in 9th, and our other expansion team, Booze with Bosma, bring up the rear, as they seem to do all the time. But interesting stats, no doubt about it, all the way around. And that leads us into, we've completed all but 1 week of the regular season. It is Rivalry Week. Rivalry Week is here. Of course, we mean Rivalry Week. And it is fantastic. We got some unbelievable storylines. If we take a look at the matchups, we got Chance of Flurries taking on Boozin' with Baalsma, Bend It Like Backstrom versus Mix and Nashit, Boats and Hostess versus McDavid and Goliath, Geyser Geese versus Teach Mad Dougie, and Malkin's Mouthful versus the Wayne Train. If we look at these storylines, first things first, we have to look at the top of the table matchup. Bend It Like Backstrom taking on Mix and Nashit. They're both locked into their playoff position, so really just brotherly pride between Troy and Damien's on the line. For Boats and Hostess and McDavid versus Goliath, Boats and Hostess could rise to third if they have results go their way, get a victory, and Chance of Flurry struggles this week. Whereas, spoiler alert, could be on for McDavid versus Goliath. They're locked in to that 8th place position, so if they have a good week, they could, knock Boats and Hostess down and leave them in 4th place, which will give them a little bit of a tougher playoff matchup. We also see Chance of Flurries taking on Boozin' with Baalsma, and Chance of Flurries really just wants to solidify 3rd position here and make sure they're playing the 6th place team in the playoffs. Whereas Boozin' for Baalsma, hashtag Tank for Matthews, as they are falling like a rock and hoping to get that first pick in next season's prospect draft. And of course, the SCKL in no way condones tanking for a first round pick, and we would completely, if found guilty, take disciplinary action against said team. But that's the case as we look at it right now. Geyser Geese versus Teach Me How Dougie. Of course, Geyser Geese in the same scenario. If they have a really poor week, they could find themselves with the best chance at landing Austin Matthews. Whereas Teach Me How Dougie, playoffs, he could see himself in the playoffs. He's in 6th right now. He looks to hold on to. He's made some big moves and, of course, wants them to pay off with a playoff spot. And same thing, Malkin's Mouthful and Wayne Train with arguably the biggest matchup of the week, because it's essentially win and you're in. Malkin's Mouthful has to win by either 6 points and get the tiebreaker, or win by 6 points and hope Teach Me How Dougie, loses by a deficit of 6 points between the two of them, and that will get them in. So those are the scenarios for getting into the playoffs, and makes for an absolutely compelling rivalry week. So that's going to be it for most of the episode here, guys. But tune in. We have Bend It Like Backstrom League Commissioner Troy coming on in just a moment to help us close out this episode as we look at all the dealings throughout the year, dating back to episode 6 here into episode 7. So we will have Troy on. Stay tuned in just a moment. How are we doing, guys? Welcome back to the Sickle Slapshot. I am your host, Donnie Scholzhofer. We're here. Welcome to my guest, Troy Paff, Commissioner of the League and General Manager of Bend It Like Backstrom. Troy, welcome to the show once again.
Thanks, Donnie. It's good to be back. Appreciate you having me on again.
Oh, absolutely. We always value, the Ginger Hammer's insights. He is our Lord and Savior as the League Commissioner. Of course, I am legally required to say that, so no lawsuits, people. So, we obviously, just a few days ago, the 3rd of March came and went. Massive day for the league, as it was the trade deadline, the day following the NHL's actual trade deadline. And it was easily one of the most active days of the entire season. We went into double digits for trades. Really, Troy, what did you think of it overall as a league?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic, honestly. There was a ton of activity. Like you said, we had like 1 million more trades than last season. Did we even have any trades at the deadline last season?
We may have had one close, but we had more trades on the deadline than we had for the entirety of trades last season.
That's awesome. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. And one thing I think that contributed to that, obviously, in addition to the new owners being really active, is the two added playoff spots that we had this year. Of course, last season, 4 teams made the playoffs. This season, we upped that to 6 when we added 2 new teams to the league. And so, with those 2 new playoff spots, we had more teams buying, and especially the team in 6th place right now, Teach Me How to Dougie. Last season, they probably would have been sellers. They would have been about 10, 15 points off of the playoff spot. And this season, they went out and towards the deadline, they got I think it was Joe Thornton. So there's a big trade
And
there that
Marchand
happened.
as well. Marchand as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. Marchand was in there. So I think the 2 added playoff spots there really helped contribute to the overall activity of this season. So I think that was a good move on our part. So yeah, overall that was exciting
Yeah,
time.
no question about it. With the more playoff spots, there's a lot more parity you'll see in the league. We have 3 teams currently fighting for the last 2 spots. 3 teams have clinched already. We do have 1 team essentially on the verge of it, so you can definitely tell the excitement's really hit the league here in the final week or 2 of the season, and we're looking to continue that and see a big playoff run. For yourself, though, obviously, you made a couple of deals on deadline day. Definitely got some veteran help. You brought in David Perron for Hansel. You also brought in Brent Seabrook, which I think is a great acquisition on your blue line for the youngster Morgan Riley. You also brought in Jeff Carter. This was just right before the deadline, a few days before, for a couple of youngsters. So overall, how do you think you did improving the team late on in the window?
Yeah, yeah. So specifically to trade deadline day, I actually had a list of things I wanted to do. I ended up accomplishing all of that. I had specifically targeted Perron mainly for his schedule in the fantasy playoffs. The 2 weeks I'll be playing. As I said, will be playing in that
You want to
championship
talk
league.
about somebody going in, looking at guys' schedules in the playoffs. That is what we're
Yes.
talking about with determination.
Yeah, like I said, I had a couple of
Jimmy
things I
Rutherford,
wanted
I am to
to
your
do.
staff.
I had a couple of things I wanted to do. I did everything I wanted. So I think overall, I really strengthened my team. I got rid of some guys I probably wasn't going to be keeping. Brought in some guys that are going to help me this year. I think, like you said, in Carter, Seabrook, and Perron. So overall, I'm definitely happy with how my deadline went.
Yeah, very solid. You can tell you did a lot better than me. I wasn't able to make any moves at the deadline, not for a lack of trying. Certainly had some deals on the table, but just couldn't seem to get it to go my way. I couldn't even ship out my 4th string goaltender for a draft pick. I'll tell you what.
Sometimes that's how it goes.
Nobody's buying in this league. He's a good buy. Screw all of you. But of course, and then the big move we have to talk about. It was the biggest trade of the entire season, no question about it. An absolute blockbuster where you shipped out Steven Stamkos, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, David Backes. These are 3 top flight guys right here, and a 6th round and a 7th round pick to your rival Mixon Nashov, so your brother, the guy who's in 2nd in the league, just behind you, for Claude Giroux, Nazem Kadri, Logan Couture, who I'm sure you were disappointed he was out with a major injury for most of this season, so you lost a little value there, as well as a 1st and a 2nd round pick, so you at least recoup some value in picks there. What did you think of the trade? How do you think it fared? Obviously, this was made in December. I think December 18th was the date. So how did it really work out for you this season? Are you happy with the move? Do you think it improved the squad?
Yeah. So, like you said, I brought in Giroux, Kadri, and Couture. Obviously, it was tough shipping out a guy like Stamkos. He's a superstar. I gave up a ton last year to get him. I gave up, what was it, McKinnon, Drouin, Nikolai Ehlers, and I think
And
my
a
first
pick.
round prospect. Yeah, so I gave up a ton to get the guy. To ship him out a year later, it kind of sucks. But that was a deal that, looking at it, I thought it was going to benefit my team. So looking back, like you said, it was about December 18th or 16th that the trade went through. Since then, I've got my rankings. Since that time, Giroux, I think, has been like a top 50 player. Couture is around number 65 or so, but like you said, he missed the first 2 weeks that I owned him. So I think that ranking overall is probably a little higher. And then Kadri, I have as a top 30 to 40 guy since the time of that trade. So that's been nice. Looking at the guys I sent away, Stamkos he's been very good since I sent him away. Top 20 guy. Backes overall, I think is around 90 to 100. He's slowed down in terms of goal scoring. Still throwing up the hits and stuff, obviously though. And Nugent Hopkins got hurt, but Damian turned Nugent Hopkins into it was like Sharp, Suter, and Mrazek that trade. So I think when you look at the value he got for Nugent Hopkins, that was very good for him. And so I think if I could have got something like
Fleece
that.
alert. Fleece alert.
Yeah, if I could have got something like that, I offered something better than what Damien gave up for just Sharp, and who was it? Boozing with Bosma turned it down. So I really didn't expect that trade to happen. But overall, I think Giroux is about equal to Stamkos in terms of value. I think that's a superstar swap. I lose out on the goals, but I think my team could afford that at the time. What I was banking on was Kadri really bumping up from his about 150 to 200 ranking whenever I got him. So I thought that if he could really step it up, I thought that was going to lean the trade towards me. And like I said, he's been arguably the best player in that deal since then. So overall, I think that trade has benefited both sides. Again, it was tough for me to move Stamkos, probably tough for Mix and Nash to move Giroux, but I think both teams walk away from that one pretty happy.
Yeah, and definitely a deal that I'm sure going into next year could really benefit you getting Stamkos off the books if he goes to Toronto and just turns into a garbage player, because we all know Toronto sucks.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he how he copes with those minutes if he does go to Toronto and being the only player in Toronto.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So we've talked enough about you. I'm sick of hearing about it. Best team in the league. It's enough. I don't want to hear it. Now, obviously, it's been a big season across our league as well as the National Hockey League. For you, who's been your surprise of the season? Not only a player in the NHL who's really just come out of the woodwork for you, as well as the real surprise team in this league for you.
I think the real surprise team in this league is gonna have to be Boats and Hosas. Yuli took over a team that finished dead last season. And I think that everybody kind of expected a year or two rebuild period. I think Yuli expected that himself. So the fact that he sits there right now in fourth place, he's almost in third place. He's very comfortably in a
he's 8 points back. He's 8 points back. Let's take it easy.
So he's comfortably in a playoff spot. I don't think anybody saw that one coming. So the stuff that Yuli's done with that team has really been fantastic. I commend him for his efforts there and all the trades and the pickups and whatnot. So I think Boats and Hosas would have to be my surprise team this season so far.
No doubt. He's done very well. The thing you have to be impressed, he's been persistent. There's no doubt about it. I think we'll all say that, which, maybe he's worn some GMs down over time. But we have to say the ability to turn all those veterans he had into what you would say is a very good squad for this season, as well as one that for the future has a lot of potential. So good for him in that regard, no doubt. And now what about your, big player for the season?
I think you got to go with Kane here, being number one. I think he came into the season ranked about 20th or so. He's a fantastic player. He's always had the upside. But right now he's got 89 points in some 64, 65 games, I think. That man is in first place by a ton in terms of fantasy player rankings, and I didn't expect that coming into this season.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think another player you have to look at as a real surprise, in addition to him, is Brad Marchand from Boston, who, of course, been traded, I think, 3 times this year. And you'd be surprised with someone of his high value. He's got over 30 goals, huge plus-minus. I think he's nearly plus 20, if not already there. A ton of shots, gets a lot of hits. As we know, he's got a nose for the physical game. So he's definitely been a huge fantasy player this year, and one that Teach Me How to Dougie's going to hope gets him into the playoffs, no doubt. So, after taking a look really at what's gone on throughout the regular season, of course, we know we have one more week to play. This week, Rivalry Week, as our good friend the Goose would like to say.
Hashtag.
But with 1 week to go, where are you looking at playoff prediction-wise? Obviously, we have 3 teams set in stone. Essentially, we'll say 4. We'll give Boats and Houses the benefit of the doubt, hoping they don't make an epic collapse. But we have 4 teams in stone, 3 teams fighting for the final playoff spots. Teach Me How to Dougie, Malkin's Mouthful, and the Wayne Train. So, taking a look at that field, who is your, playoff prediction? Who do you think's going to win? We'll accept any bias, but, however you want to look at it. And, of course, who's your sleeper team that could come out of nowhere and make a playoff run here?
Okay, I'll walk you through, I think, the bracket in my head real quick then. So I think Teach Me How to Dougie gets in. I like his team, and I like his matchup this week. I think he gets in for sure. We've got Wayne Train and Malkin's Mouthful, and Wayne Train's got a 6-point head start. Those guys are battling for a playoff spot. I think Wayne Train comes out with that because of the head start. I think even if Malkin's Mouthful wins this week, they're going to have to win by 3 categories. That's tough to ask of anybody over any team. So the first week, I think we're going to have Chance of Flurries and Wayne Train. I think Wayne Train drops down to that 6th spot. And I think Chance of Flurries comes out with that one. They're a better team, and Wayne Train, I think, is on a bit of a slide. Boats and Hosas and Teach Me How to Dougie is going to be the 4-5 matchup, and I actually like Teach Me How to Dougie with the upset in that one. I talked about Kane before, and if that man gets hot, he can win a fantasy week by himself. Then we're going to have the next round will be myself, Bender like Backstrom, and Teach Me How to Dougie, and I got to go with myself there. I think I've lost something like 3 weeks all season. Then we got Mix and Nash It and Chance of Flurries in the next round. I think Mix and Nashit takes that one. No offense, Donnie. I think he's probably the second best team in the league. He's got a big lead there in terms of
Of
points
course,
from
he
this
says
season.
otherwise.
And that leaves us with Bend It Like Backstrom, Mix and Nashit in the rivalry week championship match. And I can't sell myself short here. I think I've got the best team in the league. Despite Schneider going down this week, I hope he comes back for what would be that championship week. So I like myself to win it all. I think it's a pretty logical choice, and I think I'm not being too biased here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You know, I think you did a great job walking us through the bracket, so I'm not gonna to bore everybody with that again. But if I had to pick my favorite, I mean, it's got to be, Bend It Like Backstrom. 3 losses the entire season. We see he's got, I think, you got a 100-point almost lead. Maybe I think it's about 80 points or so lead on 3rd place in the league. It's just absurdity. You can't say enough about what his team's done. It's not that he's winning matches. He's winning matches 7-3, 8-2, week in and week out. And when he's lost the 3 matches, he's lost 6-3, 6-3, and 5-4. So certainly not a team that's going anywhere anytime soon. That would have to be, he's the Washington Capitals of the playoffs right now. He's the choke artist of season 1. But it's the same thing as the Capitals this year. You can't discount him out. It's an entirely new season. He's got a great squad, and that would be my favorite. If I had to pick some sleeper teams, I'll pick 2, no doubt about it. One of them, I don't know if you can necessarily call him a sleeper team. It's got to be Chance of Fleury's, my own team. You don't want to be biased here, but 3 losses in the middle of the season left us out of a playoff spot, and since then we've gone 8-2, just in phenomenal form. We're blowing people out left, right, and center. 9-1 last week. Hopefully, we can get a big win this week. So.
Yeah,
at least a little bit of momentum. Crosby was really the deciding factor of the squad here. He had such a rough start to the season, but now that he's picked up, he's getting points night in and night out. It's really that boost to the offensive attack that we needed, especially with the top-tier goaltending that we have. And the second sleeper team I have to say is, even though you have him going out in the first round, Boaton Hoses. Guy's won 6 of his last 7. He lost the majority of his matchups with that veteran-heavy, aging team early on the season, so with the new kind of revamped squad he's got, I think he lost a couple of good pieces at the deadline that could maybe hurt him. We know he was, maybe not thinking he's going to win the whole thing, maybe retooling a bit for next year, but he's definitely still got a sound squad that if they can put together a nice couple of weeks, could make a run in the playoffs. So there's definitely a few teams that have the possibility. And once you get in the playoffs, all 6 of those teams, everybody's got a shot. If their team puts it together that week, they're going to move on, and that's going to be it. So, Troy, it's been phenomenal having you on the show. Great to get an extended interview with. It's fantastic. Thanks for taking the time to join us, and hopefully we will talk to you soon. Maybe we'll see if we can get you on during the playoffs.
Yeah, sounds good, Donnie. Appreciate it. Whenever you want me on, I'm back.
All right, buddy. Thanks. And so that is going to wrap up this episode of the Sickle Slapshot. It's been an extra long episode, twice as long or 3 times as long as normal. I hope you guys have appreciated the extra effort I've thrown into it to make up for the layoff that we've had. As always, I want to hear your feedback on it, anything you found interesting from what I presented to you guys, and we will see you in the playoffs. We got something big planned, and we should have an episode out next week as we get ready for playoff time. So, as always, guys, take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. This is Donnie Scholzhofer saying see you later.